Hello, this is Cheryl Wilson, and I'm going to be doing a book review today on a book called Art and Fear by David Bayles and Ted Orland. It's a great read. It's a book about fear in your art or art painting, art photography, whatever art you do. And I add a lot of my own thoughts, my own experiences in this podcast, so I hope that you enjoy it, and without further ado, let's get started. I wanted to do a book talk, artist chat, whatever you want to call it, on the book by David Bayles and Ted Orland. It's called Art and Fear: Observations on the Perils and Rewards of Art Making. I know a lot of you have probably read this. There's probably a lot that haven't. This book has been really helpful to me. It's a very short read. It is only about 120 pages. That includes the preface and the ending and the postscript and all that. And they call it an artist's survival guide. And the questions that they say that the book will answer is, what is your art all about? Where is your art going? And what stands in the way from you getting there? And getting there is to where you feel happy, to feel satisfied, whether it be a career in art as an artist that sells your art, someone who paints for themselves, for their families. There's a lot of levels of where it is that you might want to go as an artist. And it's a book that I think will help you for inspiration as far as motivation and mindset. It's not about how to create your specific art, because every one of us has our own journey and our own type of style, but it's an overarching book that talks about the fact that really making art is difficult. The authors say that it's not the art that is made by Mozart or the famous people out there. It's art that's made by us, just us normal people. I mean, who knows? One of you that's listening to this could end up being a Mozart, which very could possibly be. But I think the path that you take to get there, a lot of the things that are in this book make sense and just help us grapple with the daily things that we do as artists and the problems in the real world that get us over these problems to get to where we really want to be, and that's creating our art. There is a beautiful quotation by Jean Fowler in the beginning of the book. It's, "Writing is easy. All you do is sit staring at a blank sheet of paper until the drops of blood form on your forehead." That could go with painting. That could go with drawing, photography, any of the types of arts out there. You sit down at your easel and you think, this is going to be a good day. I'm going to paint a good painting. But it does take some work behind what it is that you're doing. It takes either a lot of practice that's behind you or a lot of persistence that's ahead of you, and actually a little bit of both as we go. A lot of what's in the book is common sense, but we need to hear it for some reason. He talks about the fact that becoming an artist consists of learning to accept ourselves. What makes us who we are? What is in our voice as we talk about finding our voice as an artist? What makes us a distinct artist in our own self? And I've talked about this many times, that each one of us have art that is going to be so unique to us that it is going to become our journey. There's a part in the book that the author talks about the fact that making art is looking at the uncomfortable, accurate feedback And knowing there is going to be a gap between that, looking at the art that we do and what it is that we want to do. But the part that gets us beyond is just actually sitting down and doing it. Those are my own words. Persistence. It's the process that matters. It's the experience of practicing and just doing the art that gets us to where we want to go. So many times we sit down and we look at other people's art and we try to create what they have. But it's until we sit down and create art that is truly from within ourselves, and becoming inspired by other artists is a part of it. But it's really dangerous if we start to accept and adopt other artists' opinions and attitudes in art. We have to find our own way. It can sometimes be a very lonely path. It's like this silent battle that you just keep learning and moving forward. And that's what it's really all about. I just put out a YouTube video on a painting that I considered a failure, but I didn't stop. I kept going. Because even failed pieces are essential. They teach us what we don't want to do. They teach us that moving forward and painting over other pieces of artwork are all a part of the journey. It doesn't move you backwards, it actually moves you forward. The point is that you learn how to make your work by making your work. If I never created a failed painting, I would not have learned some of the things that I don't want to do again. Or how to get out of making a painting that I consider a failure, how to get out of that and push the painting beyond to be something that I really love. I have found that even though there will be a lot of people in my world that do not like my art, I have some incredible collectors that buy my art over and over again, and strangers that buy my art. That's usually on my social media or my online galleries. And so for as many people who don't like my art, there's a whole lot that do resonate with what I put into my paintings and what I put into my passion and my strokes. So don't let that one person that makes a comment about your art stop you from moving forward, because that person may just need to go to the next artist and fall in love with them, and you need to just keep doing what you're doing. The word artist from the authors of this book says artist has gradually become a form of identity, which, as we all know, carries with it as many drawbacks as benefits. You need to choose your path, and your path is the path you're going to go on. I talked in one of my last YouTube videos about there's a difference between quitting and stopping. And stopping to me is a pause. And I took a pause a couple months ago, and I got back into doing my art. When you quit, that's a different thing. So if you need to take a pause or you need to stop, that's okay. Just don't quit. It seems like artists quit when they have convinced themselves that their next painting is already doomed before they start. You may put out a couple paintings and your close family members may just tell you they're horrible, or you may not show it to anybody. You may just say it's horrible and you feel like quitting. Every artist encounters this. You just have to realize that fear is all a part of the artist's process. There's a set of statements in the book that I don't think the authors would mind, because I've actually kind of seen something like this before. It talks about, I'm not an artist, I'm a phony. I have nothing worth saying. I'm not sure what I'm doing. Other people are better than I am. I'm only a student. I'm only a mother. I'll never have a real exhibition. No one understands my work. No one likes my work. I'm no good. How many of those statements have you said in your journey? And that's okay. What you need to do is get beyond that, because that is something that we all fear. Each step in the art making process puts the issue to test on whether we feel that we are ready to move beyond feeling any of those feelings. Now, we've talked a lot about fear and how we all have fear and how fear can stop us from moving forward and being the artist that we really want to be. And how sometimes when we are first starting out, or even in the middle of being an artist, and we're changing our focus and we think that we're just pretending out there. Let's get beyond the concept of fear, because fear is something that I think you can work on to get over and become more confident. And let's talk about the word talent. And I've heard a lot of people say, you have to have talent to be an artist. And then I've heard just as many people say, well, you can learn to be an artist. I honestly don't know which one it is. I think I have worked with people who want to paint, and we've sat down, and what stops people that I feel can't move forward is a fear of making a mess, or a fear of saying I'm not an artist. But once they get beyond that and they take the risk, beautiful art is created. So I think people can be trained to work in their talent. Is that true in public speaking? I don't know. I can only speak for the painting side. I do know that whatever you bring to the table is your journey. If you feel you're not a Picasso or a Mozart, that's not where you're supposed to be. That's not part of your journey. Your journey is where you are. So the word talent, I think it is a gift that we have. It depends on our expectations on the other end. If we feel that we're not talented because we don't create like, and then fill in the blank. I think that what you need to do is create from where you are and with what you have, and enjoy that process, because what's inside you will eventually come out. Now that last part are my words. But the author says, for every artist who has developed a mature vision with grace and speed, countless others have laboriously nurtured their art through fertile periods and dry spells. We can all relate to that. Through false starts and breakaway bursts, through successive and significant changes of direction, medium, and subject matter. Talent may get someone off the starting block faster, but without a sense of direction or a goal to strive for it, it won't count for much. In other words, let's go back to our journey. You go with what you've got. And if you can't draw, but you can put paint on paper and you enjoy that, and it looks pretty to you, go with what you've got. I'm not trying to say don't take drawing lessons, because I think there is aspects of drawing, but I can't draw. I don't like to draw, but I love to paint, and so I went from there. I didn't let drawing. I had a teacher one time actually tell me they couldn't teach me anymore because I wouldn't draw what they told me to draw. I just moved beyond, and I did what I could, and I am where I am because I didn't let that stop me. Artists get better by sharpening the skills that they have. Acquire new ones along the way, which is great. But learn to work with what you have in front of you and what you have within you, because making art is not easy. But working with what you have to move forward makes the process very uniquely yours. And these are my words. And in the long run, there's where your journey is. If you can get to that point where making art is knowing that you are going to create from where you are and get better and better with who you are, what you have inside of you, and learn your passion, the things that you love, that's going to take you further than taking lesson after lesson after lesson, and 10 years down the road you're still taking lessons from people and never really learning what it is that you have inside of you. Don't get me wrong, I've learned from a lot of great artists, but the only way that I learned my own path was by jumping in and painting 100 paintings of my own, and that helped me take the next step to knowing what it was, what I'd like in my abstract paintings. Will you have dry spells? Of course you will. Don't let it be a serious blow to your art journey. Keep going. Don't stop. Sometimes, and I spoke about this in one of my YouTube videos, taking a pause is good. Because when you take a pause, you're giving yourself a chance to look what's around you. For me, I spend a lot of time in my art studio. And if I don't take a pause, and I went to the beach, and I was with family members and a new grandbaby, and seeing this new birth, seeing the water, walking among weeds on the beach, that was the pause I needed. I lifted my head up from my art studio and my paints and my brushes, and I saw things which inspired me inside my soul to come back to my art studio. So taking a pause or a stop is a lot of times very refreshing in your path, and very necessary sometimes. The authors talk about expectations, and I have very high expectations, and I'm not sorry that I do. It's when those expectations get in your way, and these unreal expectations form this emotional drama within your art journey. That's when you need to take a look at it, because it can become very disillusional you become very disillusional in what you think you're supposed to, what you think you're expected to produce. Don't do that about yourself. I've heard this often, and the author talks about this, and I've talked about this, and I've read this from other books where it talks about ask your work what it needs. I've heard other people say, what do you crave? When you're looking at your painting, I say go to your what do I love sheet. What is it that is needed in your art journey? What does your painting need? That sometimes tells you what you need, and it's like a cyclical thing, that what we crave, what we need, what the painting needs helps form who we are in our journey and helps us in our painting process. It just, something about it does. The book talks about fears about others, and I've talked a lot about the inner critic and how I've told the story that when I walk in my art room, I know that my inner critic's there with me. So I turn around and I tell my inner critic, go have a cup of coffee, go sit in the corner, enjoy yourself, because I'm walking in my art room without you. And do not come in my room with me. And it's the same thing when you fear what others are going to say about your paintings, or you fear what others are going to say about the direction you're going. I had a series I called Torn. It was like torn emotions. And I ripped the paper, I ripped the canvas. And I did have a fear. I thought people are going to think I'm absolutely crazy, and people are going to ask me, what's wrong with me? Am I going through something? Yes, I was going through something, but it actually wasn't a bad thing. I was going through emotions that led me to another side that was very passionate. And a lot of my paintings, if I'm angry about something, which is not often, but if I'm emotional and I put that in my art, they turn out some of the better paintings that I have. So when your work goes well, we keep such an we keep these fears at bay. When they start to go wrong is when the inner critic pops its head again and these fears pop up again. You have to learn what it feels like to have the inner critic come back into your art room with you. And when these fears come back, and you have to learn what to do to push them away and get them out of your world. If you cater to the fear that you might have, the book talks about catering to fears of being misunderstood leaves you dependent upon your audience. And that's a great statement, because that's true. You have to learn to handle the fears. I enjoyed a statement in the book that talked about most artists keep a well-rehearsed speech close at hand for feeling the familiar requests to explain a finished piece. I have one collector that always wants to know the story behind the piece. So I have trained myself, even though when I start a piece, I don't have a reason, but I always have an emotion of what's going on in my world around me. And so if I don't start a piece that's within a series, a lot of times if I'm in a series, it's easier to pinpoint the reason behind my painting. I will note down what was going on in my life when I painted that piece, because 99% of the time I can go back on a piece that I finished and point at some of the feelings I was having or what I was going through that was somehow emotionally embedded into my art piece. In a perfect artist journey, you've totally removed from your studio practices and your time when you're painting the competition with other artists. You've removed the thoughts of an inner critic. You removed even your past teacher's words. And this book talks about the outside world, and they say just that. They say, in a healthy artistic environment, artists are not in competition with each other. And that is exactly my feelings, because this is another type of fear that you can get caught up in. I remember a while back I did a series of paintings, and not really a series. I didn't mean to be a series, but I had someone make a comment, your art reminds them of Joan Mitchell's, what they told me. That meant so much to me. I loved that. Well, there was some time that I would paint, and I didn't feel like my painting looked like Joan Mitchell. So I got frustrated. I thought, okay, what's going on? I got to get back. I've got to look. One person made this comment, and I have to make all my art look like a Joan Mitchell painting. And I realized that's not what it's about. It's what's inside me. And not all my pieces are going to be a piece that reminds someone of a past artist. In fact, I don't want them to be. So that taught me a lesson to get back and focus back again on where my journey was. So do a recap of this book. I did add a lot of my own thoughts along the way, but the book is a good read. Like I said, it's a short read. It pinpoints fear a lot and how fear can stand in our way as artists. It's a lot of common sense, but it's written in a way that just is beautiful sayings that help you understand and draw on the words that help you get through and help you move through your self-doubt, your anxiety, any fear of feeling that you're unoriginal. And it helps you understand that it's a feeling that we all have, and fear can actually come out on the other side as a good thing because you've gone through a feeling that is definitely there, even if it's hidden down low or if it's a full-on fear. We all have it, and it helps you understand how to deal with it. The second half of the book tries to put the fear in context, and I've added my own real-world barriers and conceptual ideas for you. Again, a lot of it will be self-evident in the fact that you have experienced a lot of what they're saying, but it's a book it'd be a great book to read on the airplane or sitting at the beach, just in my opinion, because you can read it quickly, and it just helps put into words some of the feelings you have. And the last chapter seems to just circle around and kind of tell you all in all just the whole meaning of the book, and it talks about you can make your art even if you're fearful. And again, the fear will help you get to the other side, and it really helps you understand. So I would recommend grabbing the book and reading it, or listening to, my words again, because it talks a lot about things that we all experience, but puts it into a light that pushes us through, helps us understand who we are as artists, and helps us understand that our individualities, our own self-doubt, put all that into your art, no matter what your art is, and you will, in the end, be a unique artist, which is exactly what you're supposed to be. So thank you for joining me on this journey of the art and fear, and I just wish you the most success in your journey in your art that can possibly be yours.